Hello and welcome to the United Views preview show for Sunday's match against Arsenal. I'm Tom, I'm your usual preview host, and tonight we're joined by regular Aidan. Hey Aidan.
Hello, yeah, back after I missed the review, but yeah, I'm back for the preview as usual.
We all know the fun's really on the preview show, mate. So we've got two newcomers tonight as well. First, I'll introduce you to James. Welcome, James. James, you seem to be muted there, mate. Just unmute yourself.
There we go, sorted.
All right, there we go. Brilliant start, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm excited to be on the show.
Cool. And Mike, welcome, Mike.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much. Great to be here. I've been on the other show, so I think this was a bit more fast-paced. So, got to remember I'm an old guy, so give me the ball when there's plenty of space and nobody flying into tackles. You wouldn't mind. That'd be good.
That's fair enough. Yeah, good to have you guys on the show. As we're welcome to all United fans, new, young, old, whatever. First, I'd like to kick things off by obviously by talking about where we are. United have practically got top four sewn up after that nervy win against Palace. Aidan, I'll just ask you as a regular to take us back to that game and talk us through your feelings after winning it, and after realising after the Sunday game that Liverpool basically can't catch us now.
Well, relief is the main word, to be honest, because that game was nervy. It was like before we went on a massive win streak, obviously before the three losses. It was when we were scraping wins, and it's like Chelsea winning the league. They haven't done it in immense style towards the end, but they got the job done, and ultimately that's what's happened for us. And I did tweet out prior to the Arsenal game that I think we should use some youth players and use Valdez, etc. But obviously now I also said if Arsenal lose, then I'm going to scrap that, and I'm definitely scrapping that because we've got every chance. That'll be a later point, obviously, later on the episode. But relief is just the main thing. Champions League's coming back. Hopefully we can avoid that fourth place. But to be honest, I'm not bothered even if we get that. As long as we're in the competition, we'll get the money from the sponsorships and we'll be back where we belong.
Yeah, I mean, James, building on that, just obviously there's a huge sense that could have happened. We lost 3 games in a row. It was looking like Liverpool may catch us. But, obviously we've got it sewn up as long as we don't get heavily beaten in the last 2 games. But just talking about that, talking about top 4, are you frustrated in a sense that, we haven't pushed on for second or third after that Manchester City win? Or are you more relieved than anything?
Well, at the start of the season, if you'd said that we'd be in the top 4 and that was guaranteed, then I would have snatched your hand off, because that was the aim. But given that run we had where we, tore City apart, beat Spurs, confidently beat Liverpool, it is a bit frustrating that we're not second or even, pushing Chelsea harder for the title.
Yeah, I mean it's a frustration, isn't it? Because we've been there have times this season when we've been so bad to watch, but that run that we put together when we beat the likes of Liverpool, Spurs, and City, as you mentioned, it looked like that was sort of the real United under Van Gaal building. I mean, Mike, just building on that, you've obviously seen United this season, lots of building, but how frustrated have you been that we haven't been able to build on that brilliant run, and we're effectively, still scraping fourth at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, I think where we're finishing this season is where I hoped we finished last season. The first year of transition. So it's a bit frustrating in that sense that really I thought we'd kick on a little bit more. But maybe 70 points is currently, or 73 with City now. That's second place at the moment. Everyone else has gone backwards apart from Chelsea. So I think we had a good opportunity there, but we are where we are. And Palace, at least we stopped that run. It was a gritty performance. It wasn't great, but I think people have this halo effect with Ferguson. But you have to remember a lot of games Ferguson won. They did it in the same sort of way as well. We weren't great all the time. So I'm not frustrated with the season, to be honest. We've made some progress. I knew we'd go backwards last year. That had to happen, but I thought we'd make more progress this year, if I'm honest. But I'm not frustrated. We're all Reds. You sort of back them, whatever. Would have been nice to finish second or third, but I think we scraped it a little bit, but fourth is a good position.
Yeah, as you say, I think as Manchester United fans would have taken fourth at the start of the season. But even though we go into this game on Sunday against Arsenal, it's very, very unlikely we're obviously going to catch them for a third position. But they were beaten, by Swansea at home on Monday. They've shown that they can be beaten by United. We've got a good record against them over the past few years. I mean, Aidan, going into this game, it's a difficult one because we may have the chance to potentially catch them. Do you think we're putting too much hope on this? Would you rather just a good performance potentially going into next season, or do you think there's a genuine chance that Arsenal can slip up in their final 3 games?
There's a general chance they can slip up. I mean, they were taking the piss out of us for losing against West Brom to, an amazing My Hill performance. So what happens? They lose to Swansea because of former keeper Fabianski. I was so happy taking the piss out of the Arsenal fans for what they took the piss out of me for. So, it was karma as a bitch, really. And we definitely have a chance. I mean, you look at the fixtures after us. We've obviously got them at Old Trafford. They don't like going to Old Trafford, and if it wasn't for Antonio Valencia and I hate to say it, but Di Maria as well losing the ball, then perhaps we would have won that FA Cup game. They've also got Sunderland away, and Sunderland always turn into bloody Chelsea at the end of the season. They beat us at Old Trafford. They beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last season to avoid relegation. They've already beat Southampton and Everton this season to avoid relegation, so that's not an easy game. And then last day of the season, I've completely forgot who they've got. I've got it here, I think. But regardless, I think they can drop points. They've got West Brom, and we all know West Brom can win games. They've shown it. They drew against Liverpool. They beat us. So they've got every potential to lose points. But in order for us to get third, we need to beat them. We can't draw. We can't lose. We need to beat them. So yeah, we need a solid performance, and we need to return to beating the top sides. I'm more confident about playing Arsenal because we've got the best record against the top six. Like Chelsea last season, they were obliterating the top six teams, but they were losing against the bottom, like the lower end teams, and that's what we're doing this season. So, hopefully we can kick on, beat them, and take that third spot.
Yeah, confident words there from Aidan. I mean, James, just going on that, are you confident going into this weekend? Do you think we've got a chance of beating Arsenal and potentially catching them and getting that automatic Champions League qualification spot?
Well, I'm confident that we're going to beat them this weekend. I think the players are going to want to do it for the fans. It's the last home game of the season. And obviously in the league, last time we lost to Arsenal in the league was 2006 at Old Trafford. So that's a big plus. And I can't see us beating them to third just because they've got the game in hand. But, anything can happen.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? I mean, Mike, that game in hand, it's, you'd back United going into this game to win, wouldn't you? Because Arsenal have not been in the best of form. Gal's got a great record against top teams this season, but Arsenal do have that crucial game in hand. I mean, they're playing Sunderland and West Brom at home in the final 2 games, so you've got to imagine they might get at least 3 or 4 points from those.
You do, but I share the lads' optimism as well, because I think we'll beat them, as long as we've got a bit of invention and a bit of pace about the game. But they've also got the FA Cup final to come, haven't they? And for them, that's the only trophy that they've got to look forward to, isn't it? Most seasons. So, I think that could play on their minds a bit, especially the new players that have come in. I fancy us to beat them. I don't think anybody else will. They might get 4 points from the rest, and that'll be enough. I don't think we'll finish any better than fourth, but I think we should be happy with that, to be honest. It's a missed opportunity. We could have done a lot better, but we're in the Champions League. That's the main thing. As James said earlier, we get the money, the sponsorship. You mentioned it. It's where we've got to be, isn't it? It's a massive club. We're not Newcastle, are we? With 50,000 fans, but a small club mentality. We're a massive club, but we need to win the Champions League. So I'm happy.
Yeah,
as long as we finish fourth.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Especially, we're bringing in Zapai, and he's going to be expecting to be competing in the Champions League. I've got to welcome. At this point, welcome Joey to the show. He's had some technical problems, but he's, a United View regular. So, welcome to the show, Joey. Oh, he seems to be muted. If you could unmute yourself, mate. Oh, we can't.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, nightmare with technology. I can't access this broadcast on my iPhone, but I can on my girlfriend's Samsung. So, yeah, happy to be here. Better late than never.
Yeah, your views are always welcome here, mate, even if they're from a phone. We've just been discussing in the first few minutes, obviously, the Palace game. We won't necessarily go back to that, but as you know, we've been discussing going into this Arsenal game. Are you confident going into this weekend?
Well, I think, when we played them in the FA Cup, I wasn't too confident. But then, it seems like whether it's a lower team in the table or, Chelsea, we kind of raise or lower our level. And we played up or down to that competition. So, I mean, I'm a little nervous. I don't know the Di Maria injury news. He was on crutches, so I would have loved for him to play. But I think, like you guys were saying, probably won't do better than fourth. And with that, I think Van Gaal wants to tinker a little bit, maybe experiment, play Pereira, Januzaj, Wilson, which I would love to see. So, I mean, this game is, we're not going to throw 14, was it 14 between us? They have 11. I think we have 25 in goal difference. So I don't, I'm confident. I just want to see a good game. I just want to see some attacking football from both sides. I don't want to see either team play too defensive. Confident? Not really, but I guess we really don't have to be because the business is done. Like I said, it would be the biggest choke in history if we, didn't qualify. And Liverpool can't score, Chelsea's defenders have more goals than Liverpool's. So unless we get beat 7-0 to Arsenal and then, whatever to Hull, it's not happening. It's done.
Yeah, it's pretty much done, as you say. Aidan, there's an interesting point Joe makes there about, potentially using youngsters for the game. I mean, around about a week ago, I read from various newspapers that Ryan Giggs and Nicky Butt were approaching Van Gaal and trying to, work on him to play some youngsters in the whole game. But obviously, now that the top four races all but wrapped up, do you think he may experiment with some youngsters, considering our injury crisis, or do you think he's going to stick with as close to the team that beat Palace as possible?
Well, against Arsenal, I don't think we'll be experimenting, but against Hull, yes, I do, because our youngsters have just beat Manchester City's under-21s 4-0, and Januzaj played very well there. He got an assist, he got a goal, I think if I'm remembering correctly, he got a goal, Wilson did, and someone from the bench. My mind's completely gone blank. But anyway, Januzaj and Wilson definitely had a good game. I also do want to see Pereira play against Hull because he hasn't been given an opportunity. He's just signed a long contract. And I definitely want to see him play. And against Hull, certainly, even if we do beat Arsenal, I think the youngsters, they've got pace, which is something we've been lacking, all right, and they've got desire. They want to prove themselves, so why not give them a game against Hull? Even if we're chasing third, they'll want to prove that they can break into the first team, like Paddy McNair has done, like Januzaj has, like Wilson has, etc. So I definitely want to see that, but against Arsenal, we need to play our strongest lineup, and I agree with what Joey said. It's disappointing that it looks as though Di Maria will be out. I mean, there's no confirmation yet. We'll have to wait for Louis van Gaal's press conference, but I think, well, if you look at the game at Emirates, it was basically his and Rooney's pace that killed them on the counter. It should have been 3-0. Di Maria did miss a sitter, and then Giroud scored an unbelievable goal after. But still, we beat them because of the pace on the counter. So we're going to have to somehow find a way to counteract that if Di Maria is injured. But certainly, I think against Hull.
I mean, James, it seems that pace is the way to be. Would you agree with that? Do you think we should potentially use some youngsters with pace, say like throw Wilson in there, Januzaj to attack the flanks, maybe try and get in behind Mertesacker, or do you think Van Gaal's got to stick with the team that beat Palace?
Well, I think, like everyone's been saying, the Champions League's wrapped up, so it is time to kind of give the youngsters a chance. I'd quite like to see Pereira start in the midfield. I'm not sure about starting Wilson. I would stick with Rooney because he should be back. But Pereira's definitely someone I'd like to see. Wilson on the bench. If Di Maria was fit, I'd want him to start. I'd probably drop Fellaini for him. Fellaini's had a big impact, but his form has been dipping a bit in recent games.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Mike, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about potentially resting the likes of Rooney and Fellaini? Do you think they need to start in a big game like this to send a message potentially for next season? Or do you think it's that type of game where, the youngsters can be thrown in? Because Van Gaal's shown wherever he's been in his career that he's not afraid to use youngsters if they're good enough. At Bayern, Barca, in Holland. He's shown that he has that belief in his players to throw them in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's the United way as well, isn't it? United way is to play young players. So if Rooney's fit, I think he has to play. My concern is whether he is genuinely fit or not, because it's all. I take James' point on board, absolutely. But if you've got to be fit to play at pace, so if he's not fit, I'd definitely put Wilson in if he wasn't fit. But the change that I would make is I'd put Januzaj in. And because we've got the problem of two problems, one with Carrick, and I think I'd give Mata a go there, because we need Herrera's a great player, but he's not good in that position. He needs to play in his natural position. We need somebody who can move the ball quickly, as Carrick does, and go forward. Mata won't be anywhere near as good in that position. But I don't know, because we haven't got the problem of Blint. We might need to play him at left back, because I don't know, again, we're sure. Even if he starts, he's probably not going to finish the game, is he? Because bless him, he's had a season of being on for half a game and then going off again.
Exactly.
So you need experienced players in a game like this. The only player that I'd throw in if everyone's fit is Januzaj, because I don't think they wouldn't like his pace, and he's still got that bit in him where he's not been coached out of him. He gets the ball. Sometimes he makes a mistake because he'll try and do something that's not appropriate. But the lad's got invention, and that's what you need against Arsenal, because they can't defend, can they? We've seen Mertesacker. He's like Smalling's dad. He's so slow. He's so slow on the ball. He's incredible. So we need to get. And Fellaini, for me, he's not a player that should play every week. But there's some players that should be in the starting lineup every week. But he's not one of them. And in this game, I think as we saw in the FA Cup game, they sort of marginalised him. He wasn't really a big impact. So that's the role that concerns me a little bit. Because I'm with James. I think pace is what we need. And Fellaini brings a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. I think he's had a lot of unnecessary stick, but pace isn't one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Joey, just building on that, I mean, it's a great point that Mike makes about Januzaj potentially being given the chance to make mistakes on the pitch, because that's the United way, as we know. With Ronaldo, he was given the opportunity to, be on the pitch, be given the ball, to take risks and make mistakes, and that made him into the player he was. Whereas the likes of Januzaj and Wilson, despite the injury problems we've had, they're just not really getting a chance. Do you think these type of games are crucial for them to be given the chance, or do you think it's a game for the more established, seasoned professionals to play in?
I don't think it's crucial, but I think, because like we were saying, to me it's I know it's Arsenal, and trust me, nobody hates Arsenal more than me. If you've seen American Arsenal fans, you'd already know. Nobody hates trust me. I don't even go out when they play each other. It's just, but I don't think it's crucial, but I think it's unfortunate. I wanted to say, last year Januzaj was a really bright spot, probably one of the only bright spots in Moyes this year, and now this year, it's been so tense, and every point has been vital to getting the top four, where it was like, you were afraid to slip up. So I think, had we not had David Moyes and it was like a Van Gaal straight transition, he would have played more youngsters. But I think he couldn't because of, how tense it was and how tight it was to get to the top four. And like I said, now that it's finished, I would love Wilson to play. Let Wilson run at their defenders. Reece James, I heard he played in midfield 3 last night or the night before, and he did fantastic. He's another one who could come in and play left back, and let Blinn play at center defensive midfielder. But yeah, I think it would be good for Januzaj. He's coming off, he had an assist and a goal, or 2 assists or something like that. Somebody will correct me. And he hasn't really progressed like we had all hoped. But he also hasn't, he's gotten 2 nice runs in the team, and he played all right, and not setting the world on fire. But he's a young kid, you know what I mean? Same with James Wilson. I have no doubt that those 2 players will be, have huge futures at the club. They possess all the tools of Manchester United players. Pace, power. They're tricky, both of them. They both can score. They both can, assist. So I'm hoping, that they both get to play. Like I said, I know it's Arsenal, and I just would like to see him experiment with the squad, because it's, like I said, it's done and dusted. Let some of these senior players like Ashley Young and Fellaini, let them get a rest, because they played quite a few games in a row. And I agree with what the guys before me said about Fellaini. I don't think he should play every week. No, and he won't next year. Absolutely not. Once we get more quality in this summer, he won't play every week. But I'll forever be, grateful for Fellaini, because he's come up with some big goals this season. I mean, potentially he's got the goal that, clinched us the Champions League against Crystal Palace. He's got the game-winning goal against Spurs, technically. He saved us against West Brom. So, I'll always be grateful for Fellaini for this season, even if he doesn't even, if he's just on the fringes next year, which he probably will be.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I just want to quickly go back to Mike again there because Mike, I saw you nodding your head through that to Fellaini. I mean, just from what you've seen of him this season, how important has he been to this team to drag us through the difficult points? Even given all the criticism that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point because for me, I don't like players to be booed, to be, our own players. I do spend at least twice, probably 2 or 3 minutes of the game telling people to stop booing their own players because it's like, what are you doing? You're a Manchester United fan. You've got the privilege of sitting in that stadium watching the game. So, and you're booing Fellaini in the early days, and you're booing Ashley Young in the early days. Well, in his middle period last season, makes no sense. But it's great to see Fellaini. But I think he can do a job. But you can't do that job against every team. And he is a little bit one-dimensional, although he's got some great credits. I've not seen anybody take the ball down like he does. It's fantastic. I mean, what's he got in that chest of his? I've got no idea. It's like a ball hits his chest and it's staying there, isn't it?
I
he
think
does a lot for the team. But there are teams you come up against that are too good for Fellaini. With Fergie, he had players like that. He had players that didn't play every week. Nicky Butt was a great United player. But if Keenan Scholes were fit and we were up against a top quality team, then Butt didn't get a look in. I think Fellaini is he's not a utility player. He's a bit better than that, but he's just not. For me, he's not an every week player. But it's great to see him succeeding more. He's been very vital, as was said earlier. And the lad's had some stick, hasn't he? But he's got over it, and he's been a real contributor this season, really.
Yeah, he has. I mean, I think the point you make about his chest there was good. I think the Guardian writer Barney Ronay, I think he described his chest as like a baseball player's mitt. It just sort of the ball falls into his chest lovingly. It's but we can sit here and eulogize about Fellaini all night. But Aidan, there's another United player that could not start this weekend, and it's Falcao. I mean, I think everyone's seen the reports today that his mum has come out and said that he's unhappy and his future might be at United, it might not. Do you think Falcao, despite all the problems this season, should be given a chance on Sunday, or do you think even if he is given a chance that that's the end for him at United?
First of all, I'm going to quickly go over Fellaini because there's a couple of things I want to say. I think it's like a really nice touch that it's Moyes' signings that got us ultimately into Champions League. Juan Mata scored a penalty, Marouane Fellaini scored a header. And I agree with what Mike said. All right, he's been vital in certain points, but I also think it's the reverse of what people think. Fellaini should play the big games. You've seen him again in the streak that we won. All right, when he's got space and he can chest the ball into areas, as everyone knows. All right, against teams that attack us, there's a lot more space to do that. It's the teams that park the bus that he shouldn't play because there's no space. I know he scored the winning goal last game, but in terms of trying to break down an opposition, it's really, really difficult to do. And Fellaini's style isn't direct passing, so I think he should play in the big games, like Arsenal, for example, because he does a job, but against teams that park the bus, I don't think so. And now on to Falcao, but I'm very happy for Fellaini, honestly, I really am. I think last season it was ridiculous the amount of stick he got, and I'm really happy that he's turned it around. But on to Falcao, I reckon there's reports obviously that we might extend the loan until January. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a loan, all right? We don't pay wages. We've got the best turnover to wage ratio in the league. We are spending the most wages, but we're only spending 50% of what we earn on wages. And with the Adidas deal coming in next year, it's crazy, all right? So if we're not paying a transfer fee, I'm perfectly happy to let him play until January. I wouldn't play him against Arsenal, though, just for the fact if Rooney's not fit, I probably would want to see James Wilson just because of his pace. Generally, I think he's got a decent finish as well. Maybe give Falcao games in the pre-season if he does stay at this club. That's what he needs. He needs a full pre-season. People underestimate the value of a pre-season. Even though I've just said that he might be going to the Copa America, I'm not sure. I hope he doesn't, because if he does stay at United, that pre-season is vital, in my opinion. But I don't think he should start against Arsenal. Maybe come off the bench, etc. But we'll see what happens. But definitely, if we can get him on a loan until January, there's no reason why not. We need 25 men in the Champions League, and people are thinking we're going to sign 10, 12 players. No, we need to, people were slagging Young off, etc., saying, why are we giving Young 120k a week? Who cares what we're giving him? He's a squad player and he's going to be vital next season. You've seen the amount of injuries we've got. We need to keep a lot of the players that we've got and just use them as squad rotation players, not first-team starters, squad rotation players. And I think that Falcao, if he's happy to do that, he could fill a role there, in my opinion.
And that's an interesting point you make. James, how do you see Falcao? How do you agree with that? I mean, it's interesting that Aidan says that we need a lot of squad rotation players, but if we're going to be paying someone like Falcao £265,000 a week, do you think there are better options out there, even if it was a potential loan deal? I mean, there's talk of Danny Ings. Like him or loathe him, he scored 10 goals this season. He'd probably come to United on, a fifth of the wages that Falcao was on. Do you think we should be taking a chance on a young player who would probably offer the same amount of goals in the same amount of game time for far less wages?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I don't think Falcao should play against Arsenal. I disagree with taking him off the bench. I think he either starts or he's not in the squad, because he's the kind of player where to make an impact he needs to kind of grow into the game, get a feel for the defenders. So I don't think he should play. In terms of keeping him on, like Aidan said, I'm more than happy with that. If it's a loan, I don't want to be paying 40 million for him, but I'm happy to keep him. I think the situation with people like Danny Ings, it boils down to what we do with Van Persie, because if we sell Van Persie, we don't want to be getting rid of Falcao as well. One of the experienced heads in there, with the likes of Wilson, Januzaj. The other player I'd think about up front is Benteke. He's probably on his way out of Villa. I mean, they've got a young squad. Sherwood's a good manager in that sense, but I don't think he'll be happy with, a relegation scrap. So I think we should be looking at him as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point you make about Benteke. There are a lot of people looking at him, potentially Arsenal and Liverpool. I mean, Joey, how do you feel about this whole striker situation? I mean, this Arsenal game, it's easy to read into things too much, but this game could give us, a good indication of whether Van Gaal is ready to trust the likes of Will or, and Van Persie as well. There's just doubts about the futures of, aside from Rooney, our whole strike force, because Van Persie may be sold, Falcao may leave, Wilson may go on loan. We may get, any untold number of strikers, such as Benteke that James said. How do you feel about this whole situation? It's just a bit of a mess, isn't it?
I know it is, and earlier in the season we're playing the diamond with two strikers up top, and now when we play with the single striker, Rooney's the main man. He's going to be the club's all-time leading goal scorer, so there's no doubts around that. The thing with Falcao, and Danny Ings, if you're talking at, which one of those I would rather have, I think, obviously Danny Ings is way cheaper. It's not my money, so I don't care. But Falcao has a higher ceiling. There's the thing of, will Falcao return to, everybody thinks that all of a sudden he's just going to click, get a full preseason, and the next season he's going to bang in. So I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that. He's going to get a full preseason, he's going to bang in 30 goals somewhere. I hope it's not Liverpool. There's no guarantee on that. He's not going for 40 million. No way. Not a chance in hell. So I think I would extend that loan until January. I would send Wilson out on loan till January, and I think that way then you can make a decision in January on that. Because, with some of the, we just got Depay coming in, and there's going to be goals with him. So it's not like we have to. It's crazy. I was thinking about this the other day. Last year, how many goals did we score from midfield? I mean, it had been less than 15. Maybe 20, less than 20. And now most of our goals are coming from, Herrera, Young, Mata. Mata's reached double figures. Fellaini's got, 6 or 7 goals. Smalling's got 4 goals. So we haven't had to rely on our striker as much, as in previous seasons. So I think the striker situation isn't, as crazy as, there's so many names being thrown out there. Benteke is a great player, but how much is he going to cost? And I just think that Rooney's the main man. I wouldn't mind extending Falcao's loan until January to see if that player does come back. I think whether we want to or not, Falcao's going to that Copa America. Aidan touched on that. He's going to make up. He's going to try and get them that South American Cup because he wasn't able to play in the World Cup. He'll do everything he can to play in that. So I think he's off there. But I think that could be a good thing for us. And I think same thing with Di Maria. Di Maria's going to go there and he's going to play with Messi and all those quality Argentinian players, and that can help his confidence. I remember when he came here, he came in and he played against QPR, but I think the international break before that, he had some crazy good assists and a really nice goal. So I think that could help both Di Maria and Falcao's confidence going into it. But striker situation, like I just said, I would take, I'm probably repeating myself, but I would take, Falcao on loan until January. The thing with Van Persie, it'll be interesting to see, but I think we will get a really good idea, like you said, this weekend. Me personally, I'm all for Wilson starting. I don't think Van Persie's done enough when he has played. I know he's got 10 goals, but he just, there's periods in this season where his shoulders dropped. How many touches did he have against Arsenal away? Like 12. That's terrible. So it is a funny situation, and I am looking forward to see how it'll pan out. It'll be a nice little drama over the summer.
Yeah, great point you make there. I mean, we've not been short of that since Ferguson's gone at all. I mean, Mike, how do you feel about the whole striker situation? I mean, it is turning into a bit of a soap opera, isn't it? There's justification as to what we're going to do. I mean, we've got Depay. He can offer goals. He can offer a few assists, but he's a goal threat on that left flank. So that's where obviously Van Gaal's targeting some goals with Rooney obviously ahead of him. But do you think, as Joey says there, that we might let the likes of Wilson go on loan, or do you think we need to be stocked for the Champions League and for the cup runs as well?
Well, I hope they don't let Wilson go. I think Rooney's the man, isn't he, as was just said previously. Rooney's the main man, and when you think about what LVG's done before, then prior to the World Cup with Holland, he was playing 4-3-3, and he's brought Depay. You could see him fitting into a 4-3-3. On the right hand side, you've got Depay and Young probably on the left. You've got Di Maria or Meta on and Januzaj as well. We sort of loaded in that area. So I think it's going to be one up front, probably 4-3-3 when he's got his own players or more of his own players. In which case, I don't think Falcao's plan A. I don't think he'd really fit into that. I love the lad. I want him to do really well, but I don't know. He might be part of the plan B, as was mentioned earlier, if he's prepared to stick around till January and get his chances and take his chances. Then fair enough. But before he got this injury, before he pulled out the World Cup, he was a world-class striker. So I think he's going to want first-team football. So I think we've seen the end of him probably. So I agree with. I think it was James said Benteke would be the one for me. He's got the pace. He scores goals. He can play up front on his own. He's been used to playing with Wyman and Bangalore as a 4-3-3. He's used to that sort of system. He's a proven goal scorer. He's an international. Prior to the World Cup again, something about last World Cup, wasn't there? People getting injured, but he's had a good run of not having injuries. I think he could fit in, but Rooney's like number one choice. Definitely, he is going to be the top goal scorer, as mentioned, and he's not ready for centre midfield, I don't think. Yeah, I know he could do it, but Phil Neville could do a lot of things, but it doesn't make him the number one choice, does it?
Of course. In our hearts, it does.
Yeah, Phil Neville is an absolute red through and through, but you wouldn't build your team around him, would you? But with Rooney, you could do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's a very personal point. Buying someone like Benteke for say 25 million, with all the other prices banded about for forwards in this day and age in this transfer market, it'd be a great move and potentially allow Van Gaal that time to utilise Rooney, move him further back into midfield.
Yeah.
It may work, it may not, but it would give him the time to do so, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, just moving back onto the Arsenal game again. We put out a question on Twitter earlier on today about what your favourite United Arsenal moments are from the last decade or so, and I'm going to read out a couple now from. Forgive me for pronouncing these Twitter names because they're not actual real names. We've got Super Buzz MUFC, who says his favourite moment was 8-2 and the Guard of Honour for Van Persie. We've got C7 Azil, the Ronaldo free kick, obviously in the Champions League, and the Guard of Honour. The Guard of Honour seems popular. And we had Wilson 2604, the lightning quick counter-attack goal in the away leg in the same Champions League game. So there's obviously a lot of love for that game when Ronaldo scored 2, I think it was. Also, Sagi Rossman says that Ronaldo free kick in the Champions League. It's a massive favourite, but I'm just going to throw it over to you guys now. Aidan, but if you had to pick one moment, what would be your favourite standout moment from the last 10 years or so?
Easy, the 8-2 to be honest, because no team has like beaten Arsenal by that much in like 60 years, and also the fact that Rooney nearly scored like one of the greatest hat tricks ever. I remember he scored two wonderful goals, and then he had a shot from like 30 odd yards, and it hit the post, and then obviously he completed his hat trick with a penalty. But that game was just hilarious. I mean, you look at it, and Anderson assisted. You know, you had Young scoring two, Rooney scoring three. It was just a rout, and it wasn't the best team. Like if you look at it, it just proves Ferguson was so good for this team. He made average players look world class, and yeah, 8-2. How can you not say that was your favourite?
Yeah, of course. I mean, James, what's yours? I mean, there's so many games recently. They're always dramatic. You know, hopefully we'll have another dramatic game this weekend. But what's your favourite moment?
I'm going to narrow it down and say that it's in the 8-2. David De Gea saving Van Persie's penalty when it was 1-0. Because if that game had gone to 1-1, it would not have finished 8-2. And De Gea was under a lot of criticism back then. He had a shaky first few games, and then he saved Van Persie's penalty, and he's lethal.
That's a very, very good point you make there, because I remember that actually when he saved that, the players rushed over to him, and he looked so. The relief on his face, it seemed like a real turning point for him, didn't it? And this is obviously the player that we've got today. We've got one of the top, I'd say, three best keepers in the world now, and it's moments like that that really made him, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, were you at that game? Or are there any other games at Old Trafford that you remember vividly? Are there any particular moments?
No, I wasn't at the 8-2. I didn't see that one. But I remember the 6-1. I've just been trying to Google it, actually. I can't remember the blinking year. I think it was the year after Wiltord scored on the midweek game to win the championship at Old Trafford. That was a terrible end to the season because we then had to play Charlton on the Saturday and we drew 0-0. It was awful. But I think it was the year after when we beat them 6-1. And the reason I picked that out is I think it was Dwight York got a hat trick. Beckham scored a screamer. But it was more to do with the fact that back then Arsenal were our bitter rivals. I mean, now, not so much. But also, you didn't beat Arsenal 6-1. I know we beat them in the League Cup a few years before 5-3, but you didn't beat Arsenal 6-1. They were like the team that won 1-0 in that era. And it was just like an amazing time. We beat, of all of Ferguson's achievements at the time, I remember thinking, we've just beaten Arsenal 6-1. It's like we're beating Barcelona 4-1 or something. They were nearly that good. So, yeah, that was my memory, really. But yeah, I missed the 8-2. I was in London.
Oh, well, not a bad place to be after that then, to be honest, Joey, what's your favourite United Arsenal moment of the last 10 years? Is it Darren Fletcher scoring a couple of goals? Is it David De Gea's save? Is it...
It's a guard of honor at the Emirates.
Manner of, oh, yes.
Yeah,
that'll do nicely.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Yeah, Arsenal fans, they just, they're just the most. They just can't admit when a player is world class. They refuse to believe that David De Gea is world class.
They're the most fickle fans, I think, is what
they're the most. They're the most fickle. They're the most, arrogant. For what? You've never won the Champions League. You got a few league titles. You play some pretty football. But they act like they're entitled to something. They're kind of like Newcastle fans. They act like they're entitled to things, and that they're this massive club. But so to see them have to, watch Van Persie walk onto the pitch, a Premier League champion, it kind of just made my day, just to watch the looks on their faces. That was their captain, and he came and he did the business for us. So, but I mean, there's so many, that counterattacking goal was absolutely gorgeous in the Champions League semifinal. The free kick, there's just so many top moments. Even going back into the late '90s, I respect Arsenal and the fact that they did, Wenger did build that club up, but they need to, realize they're lower their expectations. They're a few rungs down on the ladder.
It's interesting you guys saying this, especially because when people normally ask me who do you like to beat the most, people assume it's City and it's Liverpool. Liverpool's obviously always a massive game, and City are as well. But from when I was growing up, I mean, Arsenal was the main rivalry. It was Ferguson against Wenger. It was Keane against Vieira. There's so many individual battles. I think it was so dramatic. It helped build, the allure of the Premier League that we see today. And it's just one of those games that you always look out for because you always want to beat them. it's and it's time. It's time now for some predictions. I think building on that, everyone's confident going into this game. But Aidan, how do you see this game turning out? What scoreline do you think?
Personally, I think it's going to be high scoring. I generally do. Like, I despise Arsenal as well. Like, literally, I honestly do, because I think their fans, right, are just a rung under Real Madrid fans for how fickle they are. They turn against their manager week in, week out. If Wenger wins, yeah, it's Wenger in. If Wenger loses, there you go. It's Wenger out. It's just stupid, all right? And then they drum up their players as though they're the world's greatest. As soon as they do a fancy flick like Özil, they're jumping all over it, and I hate them. So I really, really want to beat them this week, and I believe we can. I think it'll be high scoring, and I'm going to go 3-2 United. I have no idea who's going to play. I think there's like a set amount that are going to play, but then you've got players like Di Maria, Rooney. Are they injured? The defence again, is Luke Shaw injured? Is he not? I hope he isn't, because we need his pace. Blind's been amazing, but we definitely need the pace of Luke Shaw in left back, in my opinion. He did well against Balassi, and then Balassi, soon as Luke Shaw went off injured, was running riot down that wing. So I'm going to say 3-2, and I'm not even going to give scorer predictions. I have no idea. I hope RVP comes on and scores the winner. That'll be a dream, but yeah, probably going a bit too far there. 3-2 win though.
We all know with a game like this, Chris is obviously going to pop up with at least. One of my favourite memories was Nani obviously doing his cheeky kick-ups against Arsenal. I think we won the FA Cup game 4-2, 4-0 even, and he got hacked over because the Arsenal players were a little bit peeved that someone else was doing fancy flicks. But James, how do you see this game going?
I'm going to 4-0. I'm not going to hold back. I think it's even a bashing. So yeah, goal for Chris Smalling as well.
Yep. Any other goal scorers in there for you?
No, but just because of the injury situation, Smalling sometimes scores in pairs. I was there when we beat Burnley when he came on, scored twice, and I was standing in the Stretford end, and I said to Warren sitting next to me, Smalling will score again because they do come in pairs, and he's brilliant. I love him.
He gets a taste for it, doesn't he? I think after all that stick early season, he's decided that he's not necessarily going to be the best centre back ever, but he's just going to be a goal scoring defender. I think that's his remit. Joey, what's your prediction for the weekend? Are you confident going into it? What scoreline do you think, and goal scorers, if you please?
Well, confident, yeah, I guess. Like I said, I think the business is done, so this is going to be a really relaxing game. I honestly think it's going to be a 2-2 draw, but I'm not going to predict a draw on here. So I'm going to say 2-1. Phil Jones is going to get a brace, but he's not going to kick it or head it in. He's going to make one of his faces and scare the ball into the net.
That's an awesome prediction. I think in Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, we have two of the most unpredictable, but they're so joyous to watch, these defenders. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether they're going to fall over. They're probably going to get injured, but there might be a goal or two along the way, and a face, as you say. I mean, Mike, what are you predicting for the weekend? Do you see Chris Smalling popping up? Falcao, Wilson? Who's going to get the goals?
Well, I think Smalling might be a good shout. I mean, he's on fire at the minute, isn't he? Well, his Octop was anyway. But I don't know. I think I hope Aidan's right that it's an exciting game. But I've got a funny feeling here because one of my other great memories was the Invincible team that came to Old Trafford. They've been unbeaten all season, and we beat them 2-0. I've got a feeling they're not going to. I think we're going to turn up in the first 15 minutes, and they're not going to want to know. So I think it might be 4-0, but I'm going for 2-0. Maybe a free kick with Smalling getting on the end of it, and. Well, I think we're going to see a bit more passion and invention from United. So I'm looking forward to a nice goal in normal play. Maybe Rooney gets on the end or something.
Like you say, I mean, this is a weekend where it could be a great match because both sides, realistically, Arsenal will want second, but third guarantees Champions League anyway. So it's a game where we might see some great football because neither this team really has, show their skills. I mean, that's pretty much all we've got time for. You four guys are confident of a victory, and I'm just going to ask you where people can find your views. Aidan, where can people find you in the world?
At Twitter at Melvin7 and also YouTube at Melvin7, where I upload daily FIFA 15 content as well as Manchester United match reactions, also match reviews, previews, all that, BPL predictions, etc. So yeah, Twitter and YouTube.
Cool. I say this every week, but you should check out Aidan's stuff, guys, because he's prolific with the United stuff. If you're a fan of United, fan of FIFA, fan of pretty much anything, he'll be on there. So get involved. James, where can people find you tweeting and various other things?
James Browning 96 on Twitter. I'm the same as Aidan. I upload a lot of stuff, write match reports, previews, predictions. So I'm on there all the time, really.
Awesome, great. Glad to have you aboard for the first one as well. Brilliant shout. And sorry, one of the regulars. Where can people find you tweeting if they haven't found you already?
It's at Joey Tabor. Thanks everyone for watching. Just want to welcome the 2 new panelists. I thought they did excellent tonight, and I hope we get a win this weekend so that Sunday's show is happy.
It's always better when it's a bit happy, a bit drunk. That's the best.
Oh yeah.
And Mike, where can people find you tweeting?
Oh, do you know what? I was hoping you wouldn't ask for that question because my Twitter handle sounds a bit pretentious, but you can get me on 2 really. You got at Mike Lord Comedy. Now that's because I do stand up, but I also run comedy nights. That's the main reason for that. And you can also get me mainly at OGS Red Legend in honour of my favourite player ever, Solskjaer. So that's at OGS Red Legend.
Lovely stuff. The baby-faced assassin. Right, guys, that is it for tonight, which, it just leaves one of the panelists to, Aidan, I think I'm going to leave it to you.
Come on, United!